Hey, Bottleneck, what's up, dude? Happy Sunday. No, Saturday. It's still Saturday. Happy Saturday. It is almost time. What's up, everybody? All right. Let's get started. Happy Sun. No, I'm still trying to skip ahead to Sunday. Happy Saturday, everybody. Let me check the alignment of these screens real quick, because everything got a little funky. Since, get this, I finally found a way to get my computer to stop having narcolepsy. It's the dumbest thing ever. But I found out that if I leave OBS on, the computer won't crash. It's completely nonsensical, makes no sense. So I've actually been able to leave my computer on. No blue screens, nothing. It's been on for 2 days now, 3 days. No idea. I have a theory that maybe the graphics card got droop in it, and there's something that's just not happy when it tries to go into power save mode, or there's a corrupted driver. I haven't sussed it out yet. I don't really feel like sussing it out. Honestly, I'll just leave OBS open 24/7 and not worry about it. Let's fix this for now. There we go. All right. Let's kick this off tonight. All right, so one thing I need to go look at is the browser use agent up on GitHub, because I'm thinking we're gonna do a little exploration tonight. We're gonna see kind of how does this thing work, what's it doing, because we've got two options with it. We can either incorporate this browser agent into our tool as an MCP agent, or if we wanted to get like the ultimate in customizability, we could go and rewrite it in LangGraph. As I think about it now, I think I might want to go just test it out with MCP mode. And the reason for that is because I think it will get us everything we need, even though we're going to miss a little bit of telemetry. I wish we could get some more for that. What used to happen, browser use prior to whatever version they're on now, it used to actually use LangChain under the hood. So we could get telemetry information when we ran it. There was a small version bump where they took that out. So we could either lock to that version, or we could just shunt it over to a Docker file for MCP. I'm thinking just to go shunt it over to Docker and let it use MCP. So I think let's go ahead and see about giving that a try tonight. Also, back to rocking the green Jockos, which y'all can't even see because the green screen behind me. It's just the perfect chroma green color. All right, so this code right here is going to be completely This was us trying to use that built-in browser. That's right. Well, it was a cool idea. This wasn't quite working. All right, so let's go take a look at this Docker file here. What do we got? All right, so they're using Python 3.12 Slim. Let's see, browser use, doing some pathy work. Setting up a little shell action. All right, what are we going to do? Doing a little bit of more massaging. What I want to see is, does this browser use Docker container have a full-blown browser in it? I would be willing to bet it does. Let's go double check it here. I just have to RTF admit also. Let's see, copying over the Pi project. Install Chromium using Playwright. Yeah, there we go. So it's going to have a Chromium browser built into it, which is great. We can definitely make use of that. So it looks like it really is just all-in-one contained. So let's see here. Here's our documentation for this. Let's pull that up. Go take a look at that. Man, I'm glad I did the yard work today. Not going to get to go do it tomorrow. I had trees that were encroaching on the house. I had to go trim them back. So I got to do a little chainsaw fun today. And it wasn't like a really great chainsaw either. It was a little 14-inch electric chainsaw. But it did get the job done. So size doesn't necessarily matter all the time. but that is not what she said. Let's see. Where's our... Let's just check the quick start real fast here. We could do it with there. Where's our Docker documentation? Well, they got this right here. Put it on the MCP server side. All right, so to expose browser use capabilities as an MCP server for AI assistants like Claude, we can do a UV pip install. This is if you wanted to run it in the base version here, which is not what I want to do. Well, let's see. Configure the MCP server behavior through environment variables in Cloud Desktop. And any other Docker examples? That's the Chromium sandbox. Those are our helper scripts, agent history. So I think they've got the Docker container. We might just have to go download it and do the trusty old hack around and find out. Let's see about doing that. Actually, this actually gave me some really good ideas because, believe it or not, I was working on a system that was a browser integrated AI agent. That was my last pen test I was working on for the last 3 weeks. And so it gave me some really great ideas and things to look at. So I was excited to get back to this project. I was just exhausted from it from last week. So we took a break, did a little Hack the Box. And actually, in retrospect, also, it was a really good thing to go through and do that Hack the Box. We did 2 million last week. And the great thing about that is it gave me a different perspective on what are we going to be able to approach from HackBot? What is he going to be able to take on and look at? So it helps give me some ideas. So I'm thinking we might, in the future, every other week or so, I don't know, nothing with any regularity, but take a break, chill out, go play something on Hack the Box and get an idea of, okay, cool, this is where eventually we're going to need to have HackBot go, right? We're still trying to figure out RootMe or start with the baby steps. But once that's done, we go through, we program up our specialty agents. We just start adding them as we need them for those different CTFs. But we'll start getting a better idea of the roadmap, like what's the target down the line. All right, let me rename this window. This was Crucible. Because we were doing a little bit of Crucible at the end of the news stream. Oh, that's right. We had our Docker Compose we were trying to use in here. Let me double check something here real quick. Make sure what this was actually. Yeah. There we go. So that's what they were doing with that. I have to remind myself what we were doing. That's fine. I think what I'm actually going to do is... let's do this. Browser use. We're going to just nuke this sucker out. Eventually, also, I've been playing with a new tool for doing a little bit more AI work. It's usually used for AI artwork, and so that's how I've been learning how to use it, but it's called Comfy UI. It's very cool. It's essentially a nice, pretty front-end wrapper for doing PyTorch and a bunch of other stuff in the background. But one of the really cool things they've got, let me give you an example. This gave me some great ideas on how to do a little bit of our implementation on when we want to have specialty agents and just be able to plug them in. So let's do RG3. This was a guy whose nodes I was just using. So typically what they'll have is they'll have a entire, let's say, repository You download this, you put it into a particular folder, and then bam, that gets incorporated into your workflow. You can use that over in Comfy. And essentially, all these various nodes here, each of those are just different Python functions. It's not too dissimilar to what we're doing in LangGraph, right? Except it's a linear flow. It's not a dynamic flow. This stuff does flow from one to the other to the other. So you can add those in, and I was like, that actually would work out pretty well. So I'm gonna do a little digging into Comfy's code, figure out how they're actually processing it. Can we expose and develop and expose an API out so that when you go develop like a specialty agent, you literally just drop it in a folder, boom, you can have it start running. Yeah, Hack the Box is pretty awesome, Bottleneck. Speaking of Hack the Box, by the way, good buddy Falcon, he sent me a couple more Hack the Box codes. What do you say that for? For the Hack the Box labs. So it allows you to access retired systems, what's active, Sherlock's, and a bunch more. So pretty cool. So I've got some giveaway codes. We'll figure out what to do with those too. What an MCP client? Let's see here. API reference for the MCP client. So we need a server name. So we connect to the MCP. We have our client connect, register to the controller. Do this. Let's see. I'm trying to think how I want to go and expose this sucker. We'll look at that real quick. Let's look at that. So what we need is actually we need LangChain. Connect to MCPs. Because we actually haven't had to do this. We haven't had a need for MCP yet. Who's that? K-Pimp, thanks for coming online. Welcome in. Happy Saturday. All right, let's see how do we connect over LangChain over to an MCP server. Like I said, we haven't had to do this yet. Hey Dan, what's up, man? Yeah, so that meme you dropped over on Discord about the interviewing question. I saw one similar to that, but it was print the first what was it? Like 10 prime digits. And literally the function, or it was like return them, and literally the function was return, and it was just a string of numbers. It was just a list of the numbers. No calculation, nothing. Just bam. There you go. There's the first 10 prime numbers. This isn't their open agent platform. Let's see what this one's. Actually, hold on. There it is. This is, I think, what I was looking for. Let's see. So you can use tools defined on MCP servers through the LangChain MCP adapters library. All right, cool. So we'll have to go enable that, which is fine, because what we could do is... Actually, there was another thing we were looking at. Did we get to it? Python... run... Python Docker library. Let me see about this. Because eventually we were going to have Docker or have the agent kind of run its own Docker containers. Maybe this is something we want to do. Essentially, I'm thinking set up the Docker container, have it boot up, present the MCP server, and then start executing on it. This official Docker from PyBy. Nice. Oh, wait, that was Mac, wasn't it? For some reason I thought it was you. Dude, that RCE in those top end cars, that was legit. I was actually worried when you posted it. It's like, dang it, my car is going to be affected by that, isn't it? I was legit worried when you posted that it was going to affect my car. Let's see. I think we want poetry show. Let's see. Poetry show. I don't remember. Let me see something. Dude, I'm a sucker for Debian. Never really got into the Red Hat side. And now everybody on Twitter is all about just using themselves over Arch. So maybe if I ever decide to refactor this computer, maybe it'll go to Arch. But dude, the McDonald's hack was pretty bad too. I didn't even get to read the details. I just saw the highlights of it, and I was like, ooh. Arch is the move. I'm afraid if I get into Arch, I'm gonna just waste all my time ricing it out. Let's see. Poetry. I think it's activate. Yep. Poetry add Docker. Go and add this. Ubuntu for the win. If it was a daily driver, yeah, I could see installing like Ubuntu Lite. You could definitely do that. But I was like, I mean, pretty much Ubuntu is just, well, it used to be. It's getting a little out there now. But Ubuntu used to just be Debian with bells and whistles. What, Tommy? What's an LPI? Hey, Hats, what's up, man? Happy Saturday, dude. Oh, the Linux Essential exam, bro. That's a bummer that you missed it, dude. Are they gonna let you like reschedule a like a makeup? Ubuntu's Debian with updated libraries. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Getting updated libraries on Debian can be a little bit of a trick. All right, Tommy, I'm hoping for you, man. That's a beatdown, dude. I've had that happen before. You know, you misread a schedule and it just eats you up. I hate when that happens. I get so mad at myself whenever I screw up an appointment time. Let's see. We have Docker now. Let's go over here and let's... I think actually what I want to do next is let's go remove browser use. I think that's what I want to do. Yeah, so let's go ahead and kick browser use out of here because we're not going to be using it anymore. What am I doing? No, undo. Change nothing. Ooh. Probably, I mean, keep in mind, yes, you want to go take the certification. You do want to pass it. I completely get that. The learning is the absolute #1 priority, though. You've gotten that part down, so that is awesome. The secondary part is going through and just nailing the certification. Oh, man, don't tell me this disconnected. Dang it. Hang on one sec. iPad is skitzing out on me. Oh, you need it for a class to graduate? Oh. The learning is still the important part, but that exam is now a little extra important part too. This thing do. All right. One sec, y'all. Let me fix something real quick. Let me get this set up. Because what we're going to do is we're going to go kick out the browser use agent in here. We'll get the Docker container and then the browser use code over here in specialty agents. What we'll do from this is we'll have browser use in here. I don't know why I called this exploit web, but we'll have a specialty agent in here. And then that will start up that Docker, check and see if that Docker container is up and running. And if not, then it will boot it up, get connected to it, and basically hook up the MCP over to it. That's what I'm kind of thinking about doing. Actually, let me look at something real quick. I need to actually pull up the recon agent and take a look at it. I gotta remember how we're bringing in our toolkits from here. Let's see. Ooh, yeah. That does make it a little bit hairy. We have to probably do a tiny bit of a refactor on the recon and the enumeration agents, because they're both pulling in and getting their own copy of robo pages, and then they're using that for the tools. So probably what we'll need to do is... Dang. Well, that's actually... What I'm thinking about doing is actually taking this RoboPages part, sticking that over in the configuration file here, so it's kind of universally accessible. And then from the configuration, then we can access the tools list. I think we can do that. So we'll still have the RoboPages tools in there, but then also we'll maybe have a separate section for like custom tools. Hey, there it goes. No! You piece of crap. The iPad is not happy right now. Actually, I think it's the cable. Either the cable's jacked or the cable port is jacked, which wouldn't surprise me because Honey Badger has been coming into my office to play with the iPad. I don't think we're using RoboPages over in here. So we don't have to worry about this one. Okay. Yeah, so what we can do is, I think that's what I want to do. we're going to do that. This part, I'm going to take all of this out. Actually, I'm not going to take it out just yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it. I'm going to bring it over here. We don't need that part there. Yeah, do not need that. We're going to take all of this out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to expose this as part of the configuration here. What call this? Call this Robo Pages. And this is going to be, what type is this? Let me see. It'll be a list of Robo Pages. That's what. Am I going to have to import that for real? Yep, and then what we'll do down here is we'll just initialize this real quick. Just realized something. Yeah, it's fine. I think this will work. I don't think this is going to cause an issue down the line. So let's go ahead and get this guy here. And this is going to just like that. There we go. I think that will work. Let's clean this up just a wee bit. That can go out of there. All right, cool. So what we've done is this part is actually going to come over here. So RB tools, we're actually going to reference from the configuration. So what we'll do is we'll say RB tools is going to equal our configuration. And then for there, we'll get our Robo Pages tools. Boom. Nice, simple, effective. All right, so we got to duplicate this change over in the enumeration agent. So let's. That, and then this can go away. Ta-da! Awesome. Because then what we'll do is in the configuration file, for now we'll just do this by hand. Later I will add in the modularity function where it will go through and actually search for the nodes to add them in. But I think in the configuration would be a good way to kind of expose that. You learn more here than from school. I hate to say it, but that doesn't speak super highly of the school. I'm hoping what you're learning is you're just learning a different skill set here. All right. So I can get the iPad working now. You're rebooting it. Work. Okay, cool. Because I know the one night I'm not going to turn it on. It's the night I'm going to. There we go. Set that up in the background for now. All right. Let's see here. Cool. So we got the enum agent and recon and configuration. I'm going to go ahead and commit those. So this one, and there's recon. This one. We'll say moved Robo Pages Cooling to configuration. There we go. That. Cool. I completely agree. I learned so much more by doing. And so what I've been doing recently is actually I'm working on some AI art stuff. And I was just kind of doing it for fun. I wanted to kind of dig into how it was working. But what I've realized is actually that it's not too dissimilar from some of the other work that I want to do with stuff like PyTorch and things like that. So I've been having a lot of fun with it, learning and then disassembling, hacking around and finding out. That's exactly what I'm doing. I had some guy actually poo-pooing my idea because what I've done is, if you've never set up Comfy UI, it's notoriously difficult to have the whole thing's written in Python. It's a web interface, and it can be notoriously difficult for managing dependencies, CUDA versions, Python versions, everything like that. So I found a cool fella that he made a program to manage it in Docker containers. I think that's great. I set up a master Docker container. I've cloned that sucker out. Once I figured out a couple things, it's been sweet. And he's like, "Why are you doing that in Docker? That's so complicated. Just use Python virtual environments." Blah 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 blah. It's like, I don't wanna. I don't want to have to deal with managing multiple CUDA installs. I don't want to have to deal with managing multiple Python installs. I'm just gonna shuck that crap right over into a Docker container. Let me see something here. I'm trying to make sure I know which branch I'm actually on. Here we go. So we are in the browser use agent, which actually, I don't think I even published that. I have not. Well, that's just me playing with fire. Let's see. I haven't committed anything to the browser use update in it. Right. You know what we should do? Probably go ahead and push that stuff up. Let's go ahead and do that. Push all up to here. Which is just really one commit. But it's fine because the other stuff we were doing isn't actually viable anyway. When's the best time to jump on Hack the Box? Whenever you've got free time to do it, man. I'd say if you have like, at least you need to have minimum 1 hour free to kind of like dig into it and work on it. But I'd say anytime you got like a free hour, the boxes spit up real quick. They're real easy to get online to. Just go hop in there. Treat it like your new video game, right? Unless you're like very stressed out and you actually do need to blow off steam, then maybe, yeah, go actually play a video game. Oh, guys, I scored big husband points. I scored big husband points after failing epically for 3 years. 3 years ago, before Honey Badger was even born, I bought my wife a Valve Index VR headset. I just got it set up last week. It has sat forgotten in the closet all this time. It is now up, and I have shown Sock how to get it running, how to set it all up, and she has just been killing it on Beat Saber, having a blast. There's poop to be thrown in the direction of Docker being unstable on Windows. It can be, and if you want to do a lot of the networking, like between host or like the biggest drawback really is that you cannot do host networking for Windows Docker. Because I know I've explained this before, but for anybody who didn't know this, when you are using Docker on Windows, no, my pen dead. It said it was alive. You're killing me, Smalls. Come on. Could be one of them days, yeah. One of them days. Good thing is the pen usually clears up quickly. But anyway, what I was saying is that if you didn't know this, whenever you're running Docker on Windows, what you're actually doing is you're running it through typically through WSL2. WSL2 is a completely separate Linux kernel. How does that work? Well, you actually run Hyper-V in the backend, and your entire Windows operating system gets then put into Hyper-V and is being run there. It's actually very much like what the Xbox 360 does. So your entire operating system is running in Hyper-V. You got a separate Linux kernel running in Hyper-V. The two have interconnections, but because they don't cross, you can't do host networking. So host networking in Docker lets you expose your actual IP address directly. So any port you open in that Docker container gets opened on the host. So that's the one big drawback. But actually, I have a lot of stability with Docker on Windows. I don't have that much trouble with it, Hats. And you gotta think, I'm also doing stuff where like I'm passing GPU data back and forth. I've used it to run Olama. I'm now using it to run Comfy UI. I've used it to do Hashcat. So you can get those interactions back and forth. The one good thing about Windows Docker is it comes with all the NVIDIA libraries to instantly expose the graphics card to the containers. On Linux, you have to install an extra package. I forget what it's called. I think it's literally called like Docker NVIDIA Toolkit. I would rather fight Docker issues, Hats, than I would rather than Python issues. Hence the reason why I have this set up the way it is. Let's see here. Let me go actually double check this real quick. Okay, so the browser use agent is up. Container root path. I do that. I don't know if I need to actually commit any of those. Oh, I need to actually go over here and remove that. Let's do poetry, remove browser use. I think that's it. Wow, that's gonna shrink the number of dependencies we've got by a ton. Nice. I'm not ready for Python environments. I hate them all equally. I know, right? I was trying to explain to when I was fighting with the issues with it. I was trying to explain it to Sock, and she's not super technical. Although you guys be so proud of her. This doesn't have a happy ending, but the story's great. I've got a printer, and I hadn't used it in like 2 years. Just hadn't had to print anything, and so all the inkjets were just clogged, and it wouldn't print for nothing. She spent all week working on it. I come in the office, and she has disassembled this sucker, and she's like getting down and dirty. She's watching YouTube videos on how to get into it, and it's starting to work. She's working on it, prints a little better. She works on it, prints a little better, and we're like, awesome. She runs another clean cycle on it. We go put the kids to bed, come back, let's check it. It should be the clean cycle should be done. Zero power. The motherboard fried on it. But she was doing great up to that point. Good for you, Epson. GFY. That was actually pretty cool. Let's see here. So what's our actual change now to our poetry lock? Let's see. We had an async. And we had a lot of stuff over in here. What is the sucker a dependency of? Shrink this down. Oh, it's just a bunch of them got updated. That's why there's so many changes to it. I see. That's fine. This is fine. Everything is fine. Yeah, Dan. That's exactly what she meant. She's like, I worked so hard on it. I was like, you did great. You did great. This is not your fault. Especially the area she was working in, the motherboard is actually off to the side in a different section of the case, so it's not like she was in there contaminating it and like crushing the motherboard. And so, like, just, it was also like a $50 printer. I'm not concerned. Oh, that's right. To Stinger State, we added persistent tool, didn't we? Yeah, this is actually for when we initialize the browser. Let me see something real quick. This work? So I want to do a little bit of diagram. It's good enough. I'll finish charging it later. But the pen's working now. Okay. Why I still have a 20-year-old Canon LED laser printer? Dude, I'm probably, actually, the next one I go with will probably be a Brother printer. Those things are stout. They do last a long time. Alright, so let's think about the browser agent for a second. So, one of the things I wanted to do is be able to launch its Docker file. Well, let's see. Launch Docker container. So, part of this, what we'll need is we'll need it to be able to... I don't want to do this. Because we'll be able to have some persistence to it. Actually, what we'll need is we'll just put a note in here that we need multiple sessions. We'll say multi-session handling. That's what we're going to want in there. Because as I've gone through penetration tests, one thing I've noticed is like I will actually go set up multiple profiles like in my browser when I'm doing it, because I can have each browser profile act as a different user I've compromised in the environment. So I'm just thinking ahead. It might be handy to have multiple browser sessions. I don't think this will be too difficult either, given the changes we made to the state table. We can just kind of store it in there. The drivers are still available for that, Hats? Dang. That's crazy. With the caveat that you have to be able to read Japanese. So to launch the Docker container, we need to we'll need to connect to MCP. So that should be an MCP server. We'll have it connect over to it. And the question is, yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll do basically some port blocks in here. So what we'll do is we'll say like ports, what do I want to say? I don't know, maybe like 10,000 something. Maybe 60,000 something. Yeah, we'll do that. So 60, I don't know, 60,100 to like 6199 in here. So that'll be like the usable port range for that. So we could have like up to 100 browsers. And I think for any of these other ones we've got, that will probably be pretty handy, because then we could basically do it from like 60,000 to 65,000. That should hopefully give us plenty of scaling room in here. Because what we can do is we can actually just start at this index, go up every time we spawn a new session here. And you know what? I'm willing to bet we're going to run out of system resources if we were to spin up this many before we'd ever run out of ports. Let's see. So then after we connect to MCP, what we'll need to do is we'll have to expose something where it can actually connect over to it. So what I was thinking about doing here is for the browser, for the specialty agents over here, is have them... I don't know if I want to get this deep into it just yet. If I want to build that much scaffolding? I'm not right now. We're going to just kind of do it and get it working. And then after we hit the milestone, the 4 primary agents done, and it can solve Root Me on its own, then we'll come through and we'll do a bunch of quality of life updates. One of them being, we'll come over to specialty agents and we will add functionality to specialty agents in here. So that way it can be exposed. We can have it going in here. Yeah, I think that will be the smart way to go about it. Yes, yes. I like that idea. All right, let me make a new Python file. We're going to call this, we're going to call it browser agent. If I could type. Okay, let's go ahead and add that. What do they even have in exploit web? Do I have anything? No, I'm just going to delete you out of here. Browser agent. And what I'm thinking we'll do is, in these specialty agents, we'll have the tools kind of prepared. The execution of them, I'm thinking, will be... I was thinking about it kind of like this. Is that we have the stinger graph, right? And then down here, let's say, for example, we've got our 4 primary agents down here. And so let's say we have our exploitation agent here. Essentially what we would have is, I was thinking that the specialty agents would essentially not be directly linked, but we would have them sitting up over here. So our special agents. And what they would be is, they would be their own little graphs that we could call. So for example, if the exploitation agent needs a browser, he calls the browser agent, sends it a task, boom, it comes back. Now the downside to this is, whenever you're passing stuff back and forth like this with LangGraph, is that everything that's passed is a state. So we can have our own specialty, the agents can have their own state table design. But what we'd have to have between the two of these is we have to have shared keys for the state table. So that would be, again, part of the API standardization for the specialty agents, is that, hey, by the way, here's the shared key that you can use for this. Dante, what's that? What the? Dude, when did that movie even come out? When was the what's up commercial? 2006. Dang. 2 more years and that commercial can drink. What we're gonna want to do here. Standardize. We have 2 options here, actually. There's 2 things that could happen. We could either enforce that the specialty agents, the special agents over here, they have to use the stinger state, or they can have a shared key where we can handle this. Because eventually this agent is going to hand back off over to here. And so he's got to be able to basically return data that will overlap and get back over to the state table. What do you mean you were still a young man? You're still a young man, Dante. Jeez. I was getting ready to start my third career in 2006. Wait, no, let me think about this. I guess technically I was still on my first career. My first career was teaching martial arts. I did that for 4 years. All right, let's see here. I think we want to do this, and then 3. 3, we want to initialize graph. What martial art? I studied a martial art that is not very well known. It's only taught here in the Dallas area, but it's called Tongillo. Tongillo. And so that's a Korean name. It means path to unity. And that's because Tongillo was a mix of 5 different martial arts. It really was developed about the time that mixed martial arts was really exploding. And so it's a mix of Taekwondo, ITF style Taekwondo. If you know the difference between ITF and WTF, it is ITF style Taekwondo, Kempo, Aikido, Jiu-Jitsu, and Muay Thai. So mixture of all 4 of those together, or 5 of those together, made up Tongillo. Really great system. I have a 2nd degree black belt in it, and really enjoyed it. It saved me a lot of trouble when I was just an angry, grumpy young man in high school. Let me get a lot of energy out because I had a ton built up. I wasn't very physically active. And then when I went into that, I was going there like 20, 30 hours a week up at the school. I'd be up there, 3-4 hours, 6 days a week. I mean, just hitting it. Yeah. Now, most of the jujitsu was more Wazikai jujitsu, and it wasn't much ground. At least in the curriculum, there wasn't a ton of ground fighting in there. There was a decent amount. I largely focused on a lot of the jujitsu in there was more for joint manipulation and some throwing mixed in with the aikido. So I did do a lot of ground fighting. However, it wasn't for submissions. It was enough to make it very annoying for them and to break contact and get back to standing up because I liked kicking people in the head. And I can't do that on the ground. So my whole goal, if you wanted to fight me on the ground, was to get you standing back up. Now, on the other side, if you liked fighting standing up and you were better than me, then I could take you to the ground. And I'd probably have a better chance of taking you there because you like stand up so much. So it did kind of make me a very well-rounded fighter. God, I miss it. Miss it so much. Let's see. Let me do this. I want to put another note here. So after we initialize the graph, we need to... Actually, I think we can probably just present as a tool to the config. I think that will work. I need to double check something. Let me see. LangChain calling. Calling subgraph? I think that's what the term is. Subgraph as a tool. Basically turn the graph into a tool call. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. I did that for 7 years. I taught it for 4 years. And really enjoyed it. It was so fun, especially teaching the young kids because they're wild. Like the stuff they come up with and the questions they ask, you never knew what to expect from them. There you go. This is what I was talking about with that shared state, right? So like if you have a parent graph and it calls a subgraph, you have to have, they can have their own entries in the state table, but there has to be some overlap. So in this case, foobar is the overlap here. Let's see, adding a node with the compiled subgraph. Let's do this. Joe, what's up, man? Welcome in and happy Saturday. I'm finally remembering it's Saturday. I kept trying to say happy Sunday to everybody at the beginning of the stream. All right, so what do we have? We have subgraph 1, subgraph 2, subgraph builder. Let me track what this is doing. So this is saying node 1 is node 1. How are we doing this here? Here's node 1. Parent state annotation. Yeah, so essentially kind of what this, well, not this one's a little bit different in here. This is not exactly what I was thinking about. Let's see, add a node function that invokes the subgraph. I thought there was a way to actually, let's see, LangGraph call graph as tool. Because I know that I thought there was a way that you could structure the graph. So if we had like a reasoning graph for the browser agent and then present it. Maybe I'm overthinking it. We just don't even need that. We just need the tool in there. Yeah, I think I'm probably overthinking this, at least for now. Yeah, because what we could do is, I'm trying to think how it's going to flow through this as we're experimenting with it. Are you an expert at hardware? Because I'm having trouble. I am not, but there are some really baller hardware folks in the chat. So just toss your question in, man. There's a couple of the guys in here that really know their stuff. That's like their specialty. Yeah, I love hardware hacking. I like reading about it. It's just not something I've gotten to study. You eventually realize you've only got so many so many areas to study, and got to think about things to focus on. In fact, I just had that conversation with my manager, and we were talking, and the guidance I was given for the next year was to find 2 areas of specialization to work on. So I told him, I was like, hey, I think I'd like to keep working on the AI and machine learning stuff, the applications and the offensive tradecraft around it, and then also keep working on some of the cloud stuff like Azure and AWS, because one is a little bit more niche applicable. So there's riches and niches. And the other one is very broadly applicable because just about every one of our clients has cloud environments. I mean, it's better than 99% at this point. So if I can get used to that, build up that memory pattern, that tradecraft, it'll be good. That was one of the specialty agents I wanted to add over to HackBot, was an Azure and AWS one. So I need to actually start working on that now. I'm going to do that this week because I have a specialty training in a month. I'm going to be traveling out for, when is that? Yeah, it's coming up in August in like 1 month. So I'm going to be cramming as much as I can on Azure because it's an offensive Azure tradecraft course. And I've actually gone through it before, and it was like drinking from the fire hose. I would like to have enough of a foundation where I can actually have a pool to capture that knowledge. Oh yeah. Not sponsored by Jocko yet. I'm working on it, Jocko. Let's see. Blank chain. Let me see if I can find this. Call subgraph as a tool. Let's see what the big brains over on Reddit are saying. Maybe simplest to use the graph as a node in your main graph. Yeah, we could, but then there's a lot of routing we have to actually do for that. Yeah, this is pretty much what we already have. This is the main chunk of the loop for the recon and enumeration agent. What is this? LangGraph learn? Oh. Nice. I hadn't seen this before. Cool. Here, I'll drop this over in chat for everybody who wants to take a look at it. But this is it's a little learning repository someone put together for LangGraph. Nice. Me gusta. That's the level I want to attain for now, to just be comfortable to work and explore stuff. Right now, my puzzle's like 10,000 pieces. It does help whenever you're working on a goal, right? So the goal here is to get HackBot up and running and autonomously solve RootMe on TryHackMe. So not just solve all the CTFs on the planet. I've seen how some of the insane boxes go. God help them. We have a very specific goal. Build agents, execute, have it autonomously solve RootMe. That's the goal. Eventually, yes, I do want to go beyond that, but that's the goal I'm trying to attain with this right now, is I want to get this part done. Let's see. I bought an Intel i9 149K. Updated to the latest version of the BIOS, but the temps are so crazy. My CPU gets thermal throttling when it's at 100 degrees. So the thermal throttling only started after the BIOS update? And sure, thank you for coming online. Anyway, sorry, got distracted here. I want to make a little bit of a note over here. We'll put this as future plan in here. Future plan. Search all directories for agents to import. Yeah. Hey, yeah, what's up, man? Oh, so the thermal throttling was happening before the BIOS update. Okay, the very first thing I always check if I'm experiencing thermal throttling is kind of just start from the ground up, right? So, for example, let's say this is your motherboard right here, right? This is your motherboard, and then this is your CPU right here. So what sits on top of your CPU right here is you're going to have a cooler, and I'll do this in orange right here, right? You have a cooler that sits up here, basically like just a giant fan, right? Like that. Giant fan, whole job is to take heat from that CPU off there, right? So if you're having a thermal issue, I would start working from the top down. Is the CPU fan functional? Is the cooler up to the task? Is it beefy enough to disperse the heat from that CPU? If so, if that's working, just work your way down. In between those two, and I'm explaining this because I don't know what your experience with hardware is. What you've got here is you've got something called thermal paste. Thermal paste is basically like a glue. It sits right here on top of the CPU and essentially glues that CPU to the cooler. It's a way to make sure you maximize the surface area so you get as much of that heat off the CPU up into the cooler. So I would say take a look at this. Probably, if I had to place money on the issue you're having, It's probably not the cooling unit. It might be, it could be undersized, it could be ineffective, the fans could not be working. But usually, especially if it's a newer PC, like if you're running an i9, that's a newer PC, it's going to be that thermal paste in there. Something might be wrong with the thermal paste. Thermal paste is brand new. And you have a 360 millimeter Corsair cooler on it. That should be perfectly legit. Are you, I mean, just so we have perfect clarification here, are you running heavy workloads on it? Like, are you pegging out the CPU with a heavy workload? Oh, Niobe's got a good question. Yeah. There's another part to this, right? It could be here that sometimes you actually don't have this cooler here. I think what you're saying is that you've got actually you've got a water block. So in that case, you've got other things you need to check in here. So what would happen is you'd have your fan here. Ignore my horrible drawing. And you'd have two pipes. You'd have basically an intake pipe and outtake pipe. But there's actually another part in here where you have a pump. So it could be that that pump is not functioning. This could be functioning here. The pump could be defective. So if you've already checked the thermal paste and you're not working just extreme workloads on it, I would say maybe go check that water pump. Not heavy, just basically playing video games. Tarkov could be pretty chunky. But yeah, the next prime thing to check would be that pump. Yeah. Make sure it's actually pumping that cool water through there. That's right, guy. Yeah, you could be having a block in the CPU block that actually sits on it. There could be a blockage. There could be something in there. Like I said, look at everybody offering suggestions. There's plenty of smart folks in here. Let me show you something, brother. There's the stream title. I know English isn't your first language, but Q&A means questions and answers. I take that seriously. And everybody who's been a long-time viewer knows I have zero issues going off into left or right field to help people with their issues. And it sometimes it's simple things, sometimes it's complex things. So don't feel bad. The Q&A is there for a purpose. All right, let me finish making this note here. So future plan is search all the directories for agents to import. Okay. I'm going to say, yeah, for agents to import, because these are going to be specialty agents that we're going to do in here. I'm just going to leave that for now. All right, so over here in the browser agent. Get back over here. I don't know where I was. Here's where. So first thing we want to do is we want to have that Docker container file in there. Yeah, so let's get started with that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to import Docker for now. And then let's go grab something. That's fluff. That's not what I want. So there's all the Docker information. Let me find out the MCP stuff they've got in here. Let's see. So MCP supports browser usage, supports MCP enabling integration with Claude Desktop. Next, external NCP servers to browser use agent. I'm trying to think how I want to do this, because it could just present its own MCP server. But it doesn't look like that's what they're doing here. I've decided for now, Guy, to use MCP to run the browser use agent. If it does not provide the capabilities, and if I judge that the telemetry is not sufficient to track what it's doing, then yes, we will go through and clean it up. Right now, that's really easy because we're only using Claude. In the future, though, when I want to open it up to other language models, that could be a challenge. So right now, like I said, what we're doing is I got to remind myself that perfect will be the enemy of good, or good enough. The goal right now is to get all 4 agents working, get it to where it can autonomously solve root me. And then at that point, we're going to come back through, we're going to re-architect a lot of stuff and clean up and add capabilities and do quality of life updates. Sure, no problem, man. Be sure and let me know how it goes. What's the purpose of Docker and containers? So let me ask you a follow-up question, Wilbur. Have you ever worked with Python, like written Python code or projects? That's what I was thinking, guys, that MCP initially in the beginning will let us at least get functions over into the browser. And I use Python as my prime example, Wilbur. And the reason I asked about that is because small-scale stuff, atomizing workflows. Okay, you have probably run into what I affectionately call the 8th layer of hell, which is Python dependencies. So there are ways to handle Python dependencies. But what about for other programs that you're running, or something you want to make modular? So this is the idea where Docker comes in. A lot of people will say Docker is kind of like a VM. That's a horrible way to describe it. Really, what Docker is basically a Linux chroot jail. That's the better way to think about it. Chroot is a command in Linux that lets you change what the appearance of your root directory is. And that is essentially what Docker is doing. Now, it's doing it a different way with something called namespaces. That's a feature of the Linux kernel. But essentially what it allows you to do is isolate something into its own execution environment. So that's the really great thing about it. So rather than having to install packages from apt, you download, you run the container. It's got a pristine execution environment. There's a lot of people that work very hard to optimize those environments so they have just the right amount of stuff that they need to operate. Yeah, it's more overhead than running a binary or even just running the raw program on your system. But the key benefit here is you get clean execution. That's the main thing. You get that clean execution environment. Super, super freaking handy for Python. Yeah, you could use, BNV. You could use PyNV, whatever they are. You could use different virtualization methods. Cool. Instead, I know that I'm never going to have a conflict between the system Python or any of the other virtual environments if they happen to accidentally cross and I run the wrong command in the wrong virtual environment. In the container, I've only got one environment to use. So that's the main thing about it. The other cool thing about it is it's reproducible. Which means I can give somebody the build steps to build the container, or heck, I can even just send them the container, and then they can go take it and they can run it. So it's kind of like a base unit of execution, if you want to think about in the larger container ecosphere. And then there's also ways to restrict networking around it. There's other security controls you can do to make sure, try and prevent people from breaking out of it. But Docker escapes are actually more common than most people think. And so I've actually used it a lot in my pen testing work because a lot of the pen test tools are not written to be friendly and they're not written to make use by default of like Python virtual environments. And a lot of them are written in Python. Some of them are still written in Python 2.7. Massive pain in the butt. So I went through and I had my own little suite of Docker tools that I would run, and it essentially would wrap the tool. I'd run the script, it executed the Docker container, got all the data back, saved it off the container, and then deleted it and got rid of it. So the flow here is that you have an image, which you can almost taking a lot of liberty, think of it like a disk image. Like you image a computer disk, bang. It's just a representation of what's in the container's hard drive. And then from that, you can clone containers off of it. As many as you want to do different things in different tasks. I liked atomizing though, Wilbur. I thought it was an apt term. I'm itemizing. I'm bringing down or atomizing my workflows. Right. Yeah. It can provide us at least security buffer, if not a security boundary. There can be a little bit of a difference there. Also, depending on if you're doing other orchestration parts on top of that, like Kubernetes. Thanks, Wilbur. Appreciate it. Well, thank you for coming online. Dude, I actually am a Docker convert. I ripped on Docker when it was first kind of becoming popular in like around 2018. And once I finally kind of got the hang of it and really messed around with it, and I'm not by no means a Docker pro, but I'm very, very comfortable working in it. Yeah, once I got it, I was like, this fixes so many problems, particularly around Python. Oh, Python. I love to hate you. And here I am writing an entire code base in Python. Yeah, Guy, and that's a great way to do it, where every user kind of has their own execution environment in there. That's a good way to do it. And like I said, what I did even recently is now I've got a container, and you can even clone those containers, Wilbur. So like what I've done is I set up a container with like a base configuration for Comfy UI for some of the AI work I'm doing in there. And then I just clone that container out. I know it's a known good base image, and then bam, I have it. I can go through and start customizing it for different workflows. Let's see here. So agent controller. So this says browser use agent can connect to multiple external MCP servers to extend their capabilities. Oh, that's connecting to the MCP server though. I want it as a client though. And this is the kind of stuff that I really want to be able to see to it. If I think this can't do it, which I bet it's gonna be able to handle everything that we want it to do, then I'll see about like maybe spinning up a version that's using LangGraph. This is using it as an MCP server with Claude Desktop. Browser use command is UXV. Args, browser use, tac MCP. Oh, I see what it's doing. Okay. I get what it's doing now. Got it. Got it. What's a good VPN to use? Dude, there are really no good VPNs. It also depends on what you're trying to do with it. A VPN is less of a security tool than it is an obfuscation tool. Because all it's doing is it's giving the appearance that whatever you're doing, which could very easily be tied back to you, is just appearing from a different place. That's it. So it depends on what you want to do with the VPN. If you want to do sketch stuff, probably go find one in like Belize or somewhere. I wouldn't find a US one. But to answer your question, I use private internet access for one reason only. They had a very good special one year, and I think it was $50, and I got 3 years of access. My nose going crazy. Well, let's see. Okay, cool. I see what it's doing here. MCP servers, browser use command. Okay. Look at something real quick up here. So we have the Docker file. We have. So we could download this and build the Docker container ourselves. There's chances are we can probably just pull it from. They probably have it up as a repository. I'll tell you, the one thing about PIA, though, Guy, is there's a lot of sites where they just auto-block it. So I have no strong... ambitions with PIA. Like, no loyalty. I'm literally using it because, like I said, I got 3 years of access for, like, $50. It was some ridiculous discount they had. Okay, here's what... Well, this is like Claude Desktop, but that's not necessarily what I want. Oh, so in this case, what I see what they're doing now. So what they're doing is they're running... they're installing browser use CLI, and then they're executing that with the MCP option. So what we'll need to do is whenever we build the Docker portion, we just launch it with the TacTac MCP server. Does it launch on a default port, though? That's what I need to know. When I start streaming, I will not accidentally show my actual VPN. Yes, don't show your VPN. And dude, don't try to stream over a VPN because you're probably going to have horrible traffic issues. The most important function of VPN is a revenue stream for podcasters. Shots fired, Ken. Now, I will say this, the guys over at Proton Mail, they have their own VPN, and I have not tested it, but I mean, they do work really hard for privacy, so I would give them a good scrutiny and looking at in there. So really, all we got to do is just run this with MCP. Let me go see if, let's see, browser use agent, see if it's up on Docker Hub. Doesn't look like they... I mean, they have it up on GitHub. I don't think they've got the Docker container, though. You see something here. That's for building the base image. So we might actually need to go download it and build the Docker container. Now, what I would probably do here, though, is for any specialty agents we throw out as part of HackBot, we'll have a dedicated Docker repo set up in like Docker Hub or somewhere where people could go download it from. So that way I'm not accidentally sending them out with poisoned Docker containers. I'll tell you this, Wilbur, is that I had a buddy who was real big on de-Googling himself, and he quickly realized what an absolute pain in the ass it is. He's like, I can't help it. They've sucked me into the walled garden. I can't believe they don't have any examples of like using this for Docker. I mean, I'm gonna go clone this repo out and get it set up. That's the docs. I clicked the wrong button. Where's doc? Build the base image only need once or when dependencies change. Build browser use or slower but self-contained. Build a standard Docker image takes like 2 minutes. I'm not worried about that. Yeah, so we can just download this and just do a default build it. So let's go clone this sucker out. Do I already have it downloaded? No, I have the browser use web UI downloaded. So let's clone this real quick. And let's cd over to browser use. And let's do a docker build hack t. Browser use. We'll just let this build for a minute. And then once it's up, we can start tinkering with it. I daydream about having like a de-Googled phone and one where they're not, snooping into everything that I have. I also realized that I've got 15 years of emails, probably more than that I can think of in my Google accounts. And so I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do here? All right, let's let that build for just a second. We'll have to probably dig into the container a little bit to figure out. Actually, I tell you what, default MCP server port. Actually, it doesn't matter because I think what we want to do is wait, this what is this word? I don't know. I've never even seen that word before. I think they meant to say it exposes. Oh, here we go. They got a simple server example here. Let's see. Connecting browser use MCP server as a client. So this example demonstrates how to use the MCP client library to connect to a running browser use MCP server and call it as a browser automation. Okay, so you install it, you run the MCP server, and then you run this simple server. See how they're doing this. So from MCP, get a couple of things in here. Finally having to bite the bullet on MCP. Okay. So they're doing a standard IO client. Oh. Suboptimal. Well, I mean, what we could do though. I gotta know what this is doing. What is the MCP option doing? Because my understanding was MCP was a network connection, but it looks like they're doing it over standard IO. Makes it even weirder. Yeah, exposes JSON RPC via standard in and standard out. Killing me, Smalls. Well, the server, yeah, we're going to run this as the server guy, but so let me read through this code a little bit more. So what are they doing here? So they're running browser use with the TechTac MCP option that exposes a JSON RPC over standard IO. And this is running in a separate terminal. So I'm trying to figure out how they're doing this. So they're using the standard IO client, server parameters. Oh, they're actually running it in here. I see what's happening. Here we go. That's what they're doing. They're actually having it execute. So basically, this is going to become a sub-process. Ow, crap. This is going to become a sub-process. That's what's going to happen here. They're going to execute this. Yeah. I see what's going to happen. Essentially, though, what we could do, though, is run this in Docker. Because we'll have to double check something in the Docker config file. But instead of running UVX, we have to just run Docker. Yeah, what's up, man? Also, shut up, baby. I know it. I'm a giant nerd. I admit this. Welcome in, and happy Saturday. It is Saturday. God. Yeah, exactly, guy. If I'm willing to bet you dollars to donuts, when this line executes, what we're going to see is UVX executed as the subprocess to Python. And then it's going to just read standard in, standard out. Not necessarily a problem, though, because what do? We just replace UVX with Docker, and then our arguments, we just put in all of our Docker arguments that we want to run in here. That's it. We could even go so far as to say like Docker run instead of like Docker execute in here. Okay, we can make this work. Let's see. So we know how to get MCP kind of up. We got to connect it over standard IO. The other thing we got to figure out is LangChain use MCP. LangChain, oh, that's right. We already looked at this. That was the LangChain MCP adapters in here. Multi-server MCP client. Here we go. And actually, this is where we'll run it. Look, client, multi-server, just like that. Ta-da! All right, I believe we can make this work. We have the technology. I find I spend more time planning the code than actually writing the code. You can also do custom MCP servers. This one's particularly using the LangChain MCP adapter client. And the way this is structured makes me think that this is going to work the exact same way in here. This is what it's running. Now, what do we have for these different options in here? So we're going to literally send a query over to it and let it process it. Yeah, that's what's going to happen here. So we have our tools right there. We build our agent. We attach our tools over to it with a simple create React agent. Okay. Actually, let me look at something real quick, because I'm trying to remember what the create React agent does. Because they have a quick brief explanation of the create React agent in here. There we go. See if they have an example of the output you get from it. And basically what that is let's see. I can find an example of it. React agent. See if I can find a good representation of it. It's the reasoning and action agent in here. And essentially, if you notice, this is not too dissimilar to what we did over on the recon and the enumeration agent, right? It comes down, it kind of thinks about it, figures out what tool to call, gets some output, sends it back up to the agent. Finally, it comes up to an answer. Boom, we get this. And for everything, from what I have seen of the browser use agent, also, they've essentially put this kind of agent structure into the back end. They've just done it without LangChain, which makes me sad. I liked that there was LangChain in there. Let's see, that wasn't... Yeah, we could do that. I want to kind of look at something real quick. I'm going to copy this little section of code here. And it looks like our Docker container is done. So if we run Docker containers or Docker container ls. So there's all of our containers. You notice how we have a whole bunch for Mythic in here. Let's see. We have these Playwright ones. And then... Oh, wait, that's our containers. That was not what I wanted. Docker images. There we go. So for our Docker images, now we have the browser use agent that we just built. And like I said, sometimes these ones, depending on the size of them and what they're doing, they can get a little chunky. This browser use one is 1.3 gigs. Go Witness is a gig. What's some other chunky ones in here? All the ones to run Mythic, though, they're actually fairly lightweight. Look at this. That's about 100. That's about another 100, so we're up to 200. Actually, I take it back. The Jupyter Notebook, which makes total sense, is 1.6 gigs. But overall in here, I say this is just eyeballing it, slightly less than 2 gigs. Not bad for a C2 infrastructure that's not written in Java. That's right, Cobalt. I went there. Right. Ah, dang it. I forgot when I highlight over there, it copies it. Let me copy this. Kind of just use this as our boilerplate. All right, so we're gonna need to install this. Let's go get that real fast. I think I did that in one here. Oh, not where I did it. Is that here? No, let me kill this. Didn't need to leave that up the whole time. Let's see, let's do poetry add LangChain MCP server. Help if I could spell. There we go. So we'll get this set up. Ooh, there we go. We just added that in, did we? Oh geez, I hope I added it to the right spot. Let me check the Hive project. Yeah, it's right there. Okay, I think it just took it a second to... We already installed it though. Anyway, I'll deal with that later. let's see, we'll have to await that. So let's go ahead and import or await. I think it's from async.io. Actually, I'm going to do from async.io. I think that's where I need it. I want to say, I think that's from async.io. No? Oh, it's bad because it's, that's right. I don't have to. It's bad because it's outside of a function. It's fine. We're going to fix it up. Basically, what I want to do though here is let's get rid of some of these guys. Let's get rid of this one. I'm going to call this browser use. Command is going to be Docker. Actually, let's go prototype that out real quick. So what we're going to do is we're going to do Docker run. Yeah, let me think about this. Do we want to do it interactive? I need to double check something real quick. There we go. Then let me tail the Docker file real quick. Okay, so entry point is browser use. So whenever we want to run that, that's no big deal. Because what we're going to do is we'll just do Docker run. I'm going to do it as tech rm now. Because essentially what we're going to do is we're going to take a copy of that image. We're going to convert it into a container. And if you don't delete those containers after a while, they're like basically little compute units and they just start filling up your hard disk. So if you throw tech rm in there, when the container shuts down, it deletes it. And that's usually the way I prefer to do containers. I don't typically leave stuff in the container. If there's anything I need to take off of it, I mount that to the disk and then we bring it over. So we'll figure out what are the different paths that we might need to do that. Let's go ahead and run that for now. So what we'll do is we'll run, what do we call it? Browser use? Yeah. And we'll just run latest and then all right, so one thing we'll definitely have to do is we got to pass environment, a couple of environment variables into there. I got to remember how to do that. Docker. Good old Stack Overflow. That's it. It's tech E. So we'll put this over here. Because the last thing you throw in there is always the name of the container and then the arguments that are going to get passed to the entry point in the container, right? So what we'll do is we're going to throw attack E in here. And I got to remember what that is for browser use. There it is. Just like that. We just dropped that right there. We should see hopefully this pop up here for just a second. Interesting. I wonder if it's failing because it's not registering anything, but I think this will get us what we need for now. Copy this. I'm gonna put this as a comment up here. So what we'll do is first argument we're going to do is we're going to hit run. And then basically everywhere we've got a space, that's where we're going to put in a new little string here. So we'll do tac rm. And then this will all be one entry here. And then we'll give it the name of the container. And then finally, the argument that we're going to pass to the container. That's the last thing we're going to throw in here. Just like that. And in fact, I'm going to kind of split this up with a bit here. Make it very clear where everything is getting passed through here. All right. Very cool. So essentially what this should do is go through and run Docker, fire this guy up, and have it transport be standard IO. Quite thick. Okay. I guess I need to put this inside of a function. I won't do that. All right, let's just do a little browser test. Browser test is a legit word. Will that make you happy? And then what we'll do here is take all this, back all this out. We're going to throw this right up inside here. All right, showman, do your thing. Let's see. Do I have the syntax right? Oh, it doesn't. I'm an idiot. Python doesn't need those curly brackets. Backing out. Back it up. What needs to happen is I just have to end. I forgot. I just have to end. There we go. I had to do async in. I think you just define async. Define. There we go. There we go. All right. Let me think about what I want to do with this. So, get this. I'm gonna do a quick return here. So let's do our tools and our agent. Just because I want to see what it's actually doing whenever we. Hey, Shinobi, what's up, man? Stream hardware hacking. Dude, hardware, I love hardware hacking. I find it fascinating, some of the stuff these guys come up with. It's just not my specialty, man. I really want to like hardware hacking. I really do. And I know, it's not that I want to. I would love to know more about it. And there's some guys in there that just really are bangers at it. And so otherwise, I would actually consider doing it. Let's see here. Just close browser agent for some reason. This has been resolved. Why are you still saying this? Didn't I already install this? Yeah, we've already activated this environment. Yeah, it's already there. Why are you skitzing out on me? Do something. Let's just get a name equals name. And what I want you to do is tools agent equals browser test. Actually, I don't know if I can do it that way. Crap, I gotta remember for Python. Let's see. Python D structure. We could do multiple assigns. Let's see. We actually end up destructuring a tuple in the example above, splitting the tuple 5 and 11 into its components. So what I'm trying to look at is, here, you see, I had it just on a whim return a list, and that list has two objects in it. It's got a tools object and an agent object. I wanted to kind of play with them a bit. The destructuring is when you have a return that's got multiple values kind of crammed into it, what are you going to do with it? And I remember how to do this in JavaScript, much to my chagrin. However, I'm trying to remember how to do this in Python. How to just run it. Yeah, that's what I thought. If I change that to a tuple. You can't unpack it. Dang it. Thought it would. All right, I'm not going to worry about that. We actually don't need the agent part here. What we can do is we can keep this real simple. Take that out, return tools. Here's our tools. Yeah, I know it doesn't have a usage to it. Fine. It's fine. All this is fine. Breakpoint here. I'm not doing that anymore. Oh, wait. Yes, I am. There we go. Cool. Actually, hold on. So while that's running, I want to do something real quick. Let's turn on Docker PS. Interesting. So we only see Dreadnode running. All right, let's figure this out in just a second. I need to go take care of something real quick and go to the bathroom. So let me go do that real quick, guys. I'll be right back. You know, Cypher, a thought occurred to me just as I was standing up from my desk. Just to really mess with him, I should time him out right before the ad break. I thought about it. I stood up from the keyboard. I was like, it's too late now. I'm not going to sit back down and type the command. But I thought it'd be hilarious to just time you out for 2 minutes. Not like it would have stopped you anyway. You spammed that command all the time. Oh, that's funny. Hey, Trail Boss, what's up, man? All right, let's take a look here. So this wasn't actually what I was expecting here. So when you run Docker PS, it tells you what Docker containers are running in here. I expected that when it hit this breakpoint, because of the command we were running, we would have seen that Docker container still running. But it's fine, because what I want to actually do is go look at tools and see what we've got in here. Oh, this is kind of nuts. Oh, you know what I just realized? This will kind of work. However, we go ahead and stop this. We're actually going to have to pass in another argument in here, which is what we're going to pass in for our API key right here. Yeah, we're going to do that. Are you talking about this program right here, guy? The one that I'm using for this web browser and the terminal? Or if you're talking about the IDE here, this is just PyCharm. It gets the job done. So this outer program here that's running and kind of handling all the connections, you see like I've got connections to Ludus, to my Proxmox server, dev. This is called Royal TS. Yeah. Yeah, this guy's Royal TS. And it's just a very handy connection managing tool. You can throw a lot of stuff in here. Primarily, actually, I use it for handling. SSH SSH tunnels. Because what you can do is anything you've set up like as an SSH server, you can essentially use a similar configuration and set up a SSH secure server. And then any of these other connections I want to, I can tell them, by the way, every time you make a connection, you have to connect through this secure server. And it auto-magically handles the tunnels for me. No more having to screw around. I just noticed they haven't installed updates whenever they took this screenshot from 2022. It's going to be a very out-of-date system. Anyway. Yeah, I'm afraid to ask what Royal PA is. And my gut is telling me don't search for it on the stream. The Royal Port Authority? Or is that like a knockoff IP? Now you've got me wondering. I'll tell you what, let's see here. So one thing I'm going to need to do is... Let me look at the example ENV here real quick. So we have our Anthropic API key. Unless you mean like royal pain in the ass, but you're missing. You can get away with leaving off the INV. Yeah, Ford. Royal TS is it's a program I've just come to love over time. And I'll tell you what, I get a lot of crap for it. I really like it. And it's very good for handling, like, even during penetration tests, setting up connections to my attack infrastructure, super easy. One of the other things, though, is I actually ran into this. I ran into this program that I was able to access when I was doing a penetration test, and it was on a Citrix server. And these guys had gone out of their way to restrict like CMD and PowerShell everything. However, you can actually run PowerShell commands through RoyalTS here. You can just embed the command and execute it, and it executes without PowerShell.exe. So because they had this available for their developers to use through Citrix, I was able to compromise their Citrix server. Just because I happened to know about this tool. It was really funny to me. I didn't think it was funny. I thought it was hilarious. Alright, so Anthropic API key, because what we're going to need is, we're going to need to pass that also as an environment variable here. Oh, you know what I just realized? I'm missing something here. I'm missing something very important. We did not put the TAC E in here. That's probably why it was crashing and failing. Yep. So I'm going to need to do that again here. I just realized it as I'm going to come set up the Anthropic API key. So this, I'm actually going to do is a format string. Let's see, we can't do a load.env here. Get this. I'm trying to think of a way to get the API key into here without you spazoids going through and burning all my Anthropic credits. Because I know you will. Crap. I don't want to do this. Well, I'm going to have to bring over the configuration anyway, so let's go do that. Let's... Crap, how did I import that? Ah, that's where it is. Yeah. We go to import config, and then what I can do down here in the config is actually I can... The problem is if I run load.env, it's gonna, I think it's gonna try to load the .env from here, which is suboptimal, is the way we're executing it. So I think instead, you know what's funny is, I watched the viewer count during the stream, and I noticed there's always a big drop after the ads run. And I just wonder how many people are watching, like with ad blockers, and they're getting dropped whenever the ads run. Hey, Rep, what's up, dude? Hadn't seen your beautiful name in chat in a long time. What's going on is we are currently configuring, that's a technical term, a browser for HackBot to be able to use for doing for doing web app exploitation. So stuff that we can't do like over an API, boom, we're going to have the browser able to do it for us. So we're doing a quick test now. Yeah. So there's a very cool project. Unfortunately, it doesn't integrate as cleanly as I would like now. So let me see something real quick. Does load.env I didn't mean to close that. Let me think about this. How would I get that env out of here? Actually, yeah, let me look at some. Let's see. Python load.env. Does that actually return anything? Or does it literally just load it up into... was trying to see if load.env actually returned anything that we might be able to use. Fortunately, no. All right, there is a quick and dirty hack for this, which is literally I just take this guy and I copy it over to specialty agents. You're not supposed to show the file, freaking PyCharm. Thankfully, it's off the edge, so you can't get the entire API key. Almost doxed myself. For the love of God, PyCharm. Let's see. Dude, don't apologize, Brett, man. I understand life, bro. I understand life. I very understand life, especially the last year. Let's see, what's going on? Work's been busy. I've been tasked to do a C2 EDR bypass to test beacon detections using the usual C2 as TCP as my main C2 callback instead of HTTP due to it being external. So I've been testing Mythic, Sliver, and Adaptix. Yay, Mythic. I love Mythic. Let's see. Mythic doesn't have external TCP beacons, but good for internal. Sliver, I was able to generate a working beacon, but the shellcode didn't work for the loaders due to it being a Golang binary. Oh, yeah. Good luck, man. You know, I'm trying to think. We're going to dig into a lot of the internals of Mythic once the exploitation agent's done. When the exploitation agent is complete, or at least in a functional state for this, and we move over to PostX, we're going to dig a lot into the Mythic internals. I want to say you could go make your own C2 channel for C2 over the internet. Typically, it's left as point-to-point. That's a weird ask, though, because TCP over the internet would be a way bigger indicator of compromise than HTTP or HTTPS over the internet. So that's kind of an odd ask. Did they say why they wanted to use TCP as the main C2 channel? Let's see here. All right, let me bring this over. So for a quick and dirty test, we're gonna throw that right in there. Let me take this out. Then we're gonna build our create React agent, and let me check one more thing. Wait, this was that's the LangGraph quick start. That's not what I wanted. Here we go. So we can use this as a quick and dirty example to call this. So, come on. There we go. Let's call this browser response. My boss wants it as realistic as a threat actor due to HTTP is more local exploitation. He wanted it as a scenario if someone put a beacon that calls back to a server for exfil. That's a proxy, so hence the TCP. I mean, you can exfil over HTTP, no problem though. So is the scenario that they're having, they want to simulate like somebody has been low and slow in the network and then they spin up a TCP connection to exfil data as quickly as possible? Is that what they're wanting? Body the crap out of it. Let me do this. run test. Okay. I'm just gonna have it printed out. Let's do this. And it would help if I could type. There we go. I'm going to put this right here. So Trailboss, I'm a professional hacker, and I apologize. I'm trying to work that chat into the regular flow thing, so I'm sorry if I'm very slow to respond to your messages. But actually, I work in offensive security. I'm a penetration tester. I do coding for fun. And so, how do I combine the two things that I like doing, which is hacking stuff and coding stuff for fun? I'm making a program to automatically do it using Claude AI. So, we're having a good time with it. Let's see. What's a good website to test this out on? Browse to weather.com and check the weather in Boston. So you're talking like they drop the beacon with the TCP connection to a server or proxy to funnel the data. Yeah, that's what I was saying. So, because I can understand that scenario in there. I just think it's kind of odd. What I was thinking though is you could go potentially build a C2 channel for Mythic using and have it be TCP out over the internet. I'd say go hop on the Bloodhound Gang Slack, and there's a Mythic channel in there. Cody, who's the guy who wrote Mythic, he's in there all the time monitoring it for messages. So I'd say you could definitely go just ask him. Heck, the dude's so on the ball, he might even just do it for you. Actually, I'm gonna break this up real quick. Output is gonna be run test, and then print the output. Why? Because then I can break it. All right, let's see if it works. Oh wait, I forgot. There's a very important part here, which is, dang it, I did the load.env file, but I need to actually access what other ones do I have available to access from it? I gotta check something quick. Let's see. Python.env. Because what I need to check is how do I access an individual one? Because what's going to happen here is it's going to load it into the execution environment for this, but it's not going to load it into the execution environment for the Docker container. We've got to pass that with this variable. Let's see. If that's the case, we can still use the load env file function, but what we need is, oh cool, you could even load like individual ones. I guess we'll have to do this with OS then. What we'll do there is then we'll from OS import get env. And then what we're going to do here is this is going to be get env, and then whatever the key is, which should be this guy right here. I believe that's how we're going to do that. Let's see. String to know the name of the environment variable. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what we want. So what this should do here is this is going to basically execute a little side command, get the environment variable. Load.env is going to load the variable. We're going to grab it. We're going to throw it right in here. Oh. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All right, let's see if it actually works. So if this works, I guess it would help if I spelled weather.com correctly. What this should do is it should spin up the Docker container with the browser, with the agent to actually interact and run the browser. Hopefully go to weather.com, check it, return it back to us. If this works, then this would actually be pretty easy to go integrate over into our setup here. Hopefully it works. Let's give it a shot. I don't want that to be in a waste. Yeah, we're gonna, okay, so it's gonna wait here, so it's gonna wait for that. All right, cool. I think we're good. Let's run it. Hold on, when I had it set up like this, though, it hated that. Run test was never awaited. Right there, bro. Hates that. Damn it. I don't remember how to do this with Python. Python await. Okay. Using async await. Async IO. I don't want to sleep though. We define these as async functions. No wait in here. We do have an await happening here though. What's wrong with this code? I don't ever have to deal with any of these conditions. So. So we're awaiting there, but for some reason it says it does not like it here. Do I really have to await that? This was not the rabbit hole I expected to go down tonight. Let's see, so the option of this one using async IO is async, we do some awaits here. Oh, so we actually have to do an async IO to create an event loop. Run until complete, main users, got it, okay. So we did need async IO like I thought we did. So actually, I'm going to import that way up here. Let's see. So in this case, they're talking about we need to define our event loop. So let's get that specific loop equal run until complete, and the function we're going to run. So the function we're going to run is our run test. missed something. Oh, we helped because I never defined the loop. That's what's the problem. There we go. So now we've got an event loop for async IO to pipe everything into, run until all is complete. We pass it run test, capture the output. Oh, the output actually would be the output from that. Got it. So this is supposed to be our output here. I'm a dummy. There we go. Now let's run it. Coroutine browser test was never open. What? I just realized actually because of the way this functions in take this and just bring this up here. I had these broken up before I was really thinking about it. I gotta change that. So we'll change that. Here. Users there. Yep. Notice we're just passing in the list of the users. We pass that to main, which is an async. It doesn't await for async IO. All right, we should hopefully. We're gonna hack around and find out. All right, we got a new error, which is good. New errors are good. Unknown flag, tac MCP. Really? That's, again, suboptimal in here. Let's think about this. So we run, this should be good though. Run tech RM. So for some reason it's not liking the way we've structured the arguments over in the Docker container. It's not liking it, and that's fine. We'll fix it up. So we're getting an error in the create standard IO section, and it's because it doesn't like how we're executing this. So we got an unknown flag for tac MCP. But that flag should have been passed over to the Docker container. See that? Let's try something here. Let's just try this real quick. So we'll do docker run tac e. I wonder actually if I need to. Hang on one sec. Let me drop into OPSEC mode to go check something. I gotta check my API keys in here because I think the problem might be the structure of the API keys. I don't think so, though. I don't think that's actually interfering with it. let's set that. And then now it should just be browser use latest. That's it. Let me do attack H here. Let's just let it run for a second. I want to see it run. So it is passing the arguments correctly, so we're good there. Let's see, and we should be able to run TAC MCP to run that as standard in out. See something here. Do we have verbose logging in here? Yeah, we can do a TAC debug in there too. Perfect. Let's run that and let's see if we get anything back from it. See, that's really weird. See that? Oh, you know what I just realized? I wonder if since we're running this inside the container, we probably need to run this in headless mode too. I'm pretty sure. Well, a lot of fat good you are, debug. I had such high hopes for you, browser agent. I thought we would just be able to throw MCP together and you'd be all happy, but no. So you work. You work. So I know you work. But why is debug coming back with nothing from MCP? Piece of crap. Let me check something real quick. Let's back a lot of these out here. Do browser use agent logging files. Surely we've got to have some kind of log file in. Oh, you had something about logging in here. Killing me, Smalls. I really want to like this project, but it is such a pain in the butt to integrate into anything else. Let me try something here. Well, I want to see what it does here whenever I run this. What would you like to do on the web? Let's just see if it works. Browse to weather.com and find out if it's going to rain in the next 3 days in Boston. Actually, it's going to fail because I didn't give it an API key. Forgot about that. So something left to be desired here is the lack of logging happening here. Let's see. What else could I try with this for tonight? Fortunately, we're running out of time. We're looking at about 10 minutes left on the stream. What else could I do with it? I'm trying to think if there's any other way to debug this. Actually, what if I take off the headless option? We still get the same thing here. Still don't, so back to the original problem. I still do not understand why this was coming back with the error that we got was that it said Docker not understand this. I mean, there's a actually, let's see if surely some other giant nerd has come across this. Let's see. Standard IO MCP server. I don't want to add a new damn protocol to this. What Synactive has to say here. So the following is taken from an MCP code example. All right, cool. So to spawn the GitHub MCP server via Docker, we normally run commands such as this. Create personal access token. Yeah, we're fine. This is totally legit. So one thing we could also do, since we're using a customized version of this, is we could just bake in the TAC MCP option to the Docker container and rebuild the container real fast. That wouldn't be a problem. And what I mean by that is, we come over here. Let me do this over here. I'm already here. Nice. Okay. So if we CD over to the browser use agent, and if we tail the Docker file here, so the entry point is browser use, right? I think you can actually specify browser use and what else you're going to run with it. Let's see. So we can do that real quick. Let's see. Docker entry point with arguments. Which I believe you can just do. I think if you structure it like a list, like this, I think that would work. Oh no, what they're saying is you have to actually build a file to do that, and you set that to entrypoint.sh. Rude. I thought I was gonna get this at least up and prototyped tonight. This is sucky. Think about this. Now, so I can test with for this guy here. What's wrong? Okay. A little bit of a storm outside, so she was a little bit wet. Poor Peaches. That's my doggy. Not sure what else to do with this tonight. So unfortunately, I think that's probably what we're going to call it. I might go ask these guys up on, they have a Discord. I could probably throw a question up there, ask them, hey, what's happening with this? I really don't feel like digging through their code. And it'd be different if we were getting some kind of information back, but we're getting diddly, right? That's it. I'm going to try one more thing. Hang on one sec, guys. Stand by. Going into OPSEC mode. Okay. Let's see if we can make this work. Well, that's annoying. So we'll see if this will work real fast. Okay, it actually seems to be working kind of okay with this. So let me try the headless version here. What would you like me to do? Let's see. Check the weather in Boston for rain in the next 3 days. That's funny because it's why would you default to using OpenAI when I gave you an Anthropic key? It feels like a fault. Once you notice that the Anthropic key is blank, or that the chat OpenAI key is blank, and use the Anthropic key? At least we get some note here, like, hey, we're waiting for the browser session to launch. Hang on. Gotta go back into OPSEC mode to check something. I think this is just going to fail because for some reason it's specifying this as I really want to see at least it do something real quick. Let's see, model. I know you'll work with Anthropic. All right. Test this out a little bit later. Unfortunately, we're really out of time tonight because I have some stuff I've got to take care of early in the morning. Let's see if anybody else is up on InfoSec streams. This is disappointing. Come on, guys. Why does nobody stream at this time of night? Such a bummer. By the way, for anybody that has not seen this, if you like all sorts of weird hacking stuff, there's tons of people on here that do it. So check out InfoSec streams. They're really awesome. And if you stream and you like and you're doing hacking stuff and streaming, go over to the GitHub repository. Where is it? Right here. Click on that. You can submit a pull request to have your tags added to it. It'll keep track of them. So, very cool setup. All right, let's go find somebody to rate out to. Hey, Johnny Cash is on. What's he up to? Stream anniversary. Let's see, Raji's up here doing something. Doing some fun stuff. So, you know what? Theo's on. Let's go give him a raid out. All right, guys. Unfortunately, that is where I've got to end it tonight. Everybody, y'all have a fantastic Sunday coming up. Figure out what's going on with this browser agent. I think we're close. I think we've almost got this nut cracked. Hopefully, it will work. If not, might just have to go architect our own because we're going to need a browser for this guy sooner or later. I think we can figure it out. But that's all I got for tonight. I want y'all to have a wonderful Sunday tomorrow. Keep being awesome. And really, really remember this one very important thing, which is I love you. Peace. Peace out, Trail Boss.